spoke with Secretary of Homeland Security Jeh Johnson about the threats we still face 15 years after 9/11. Secretary Johnson, thank you for talking with us on this 15th anniversary of 9/11. How would you characterize the threat to the U.S. homeland right now?
Chris, we are stronger against another 9/11 style terrorist-directed attack from overseas. Our government's become pretty good at detecting and preventing something hatched from overseas, launched from overseas. Our intelligence community is good at picking up that kind of thing. Now we're better than we were 15 years ago. Where we're challenged, however, is with the lone wolf style attack. The self-radicalized actor who is here in the homeland. Terrorist organizations have the ability to literally reach into our homeland through the internet and recruit and inspire. And that's a relatively new environment, and it requires a whole of government response.
But I want to try, if I can, sir, to break down the threat. And let me put a couple of things up on the screen. Terrorists now have a greater safe haven in ISIS than they've had any time since 9/11. The FBI says there are more than 900 active investigations against lone wolves and other suspects in all 50 states. A test last year found TSA screeners missed weapons 95% of the time. Last year, almost 500,000 people overstayed their visas, and the number of African and Asian migrants trying to cross the border from Mexico is rising. Secretary Johnson, I don't have to tell you, those are all serious holes in our national safety net.
Yeah, there are a couple of things, Chris. First, our U.S. military, along with our international partners, as we speak, is taking back territory from ISIL in Iraq, Syria. We've taken out a number of the leaders, those focused on external attacks. You're correct to note the number of open pending investigations by the FBI here in the homeland. The FBI has become pretty good when it comes to their counterterrorism capability, detecting these types of things. Aviation security, TSA is actually stronger now, in my view, than it was a year ago after those horrible IG test results. As you know, we replaced the TSA administrator, hired a new one, Pete Neppinger, who's doing a terrific job. We were challenged earlier this summer. Wait times have been reduced, but we have not shortcut aviation security, and we're investing in more aviation security technology and more TSOs. In terms of the southwest border, I just recently asked our people to focus on immigrants coming illegally from other hemispheres, from the Middle East and so forth, to detect them and block them before they even get to the homeland, working with governments in South America, Central America, to prevent that from happening. You're correct that we're seeing illegal migrants coming from Africa, coming from the Middle East, and we're doubling down on preventing that from happening before they even reach the southwest border.
So bottom line, is the threat we face now worse or less serious than during 9/11? Because the chairman of the 9/11 Commission, Tom Keene and Lee Hamilton, say they think it's worse.
We're stronger when it comes to preventing against a 9/11 style attack. We very plainly have a serious threat environment when it comes to the lone wolf actor, those who self-radicalize. That's a relatively new phenomenon that we've got to protect against. The public can play a role building bridges to communities where terrorists are trying to recruit from within. It's a new environment, and there are a lot of people working really hard to protect against it, but it's still here, and it's probably going to be with us for a while, Chris.
I want to turn to another threat that we appear to face, and that is Russian hacking into our political system. Democratic Party files, election databases in at least 2 states, Arizona and Illinois. Do you believe that the Russians are trying to undermine confidence in our democratic processes? And what is the possibility that they could actually disrupt the vote count in November?
First, there's an open investigation into the DNC hack, into various intrusions that we've seen into state election systems. It would be pretty hard to, Chris, alter a ballot count, alter how we tabulate votes in this country, in part because the system is so decentralized. There's some 9,000 jurisdictions involved in the election process. But I've been sending the message to state and local election officials that my department, our cybersecurity experts, are in a position to help them further secure their presence on the internet where it exists. We're in the midst of having that conversation literally right now. And so we're going to keep at that between now and November 8th and beyond.
Mr. Secretary, does it bother you when you hear a major American political figure say that Vladimir Putin is more of a leader than President Obama?
Well, Chris, I don't comment on what the political candidates say this election season. I think we have to be extremely careful, however, in what we say about foreign leaders. Republicans and Democrats on both sides of the aisle have a lot of concerns about what Vladimir Putin is up to, and so I think we need to be careful in our rhetoric, and that's a nonpartisan, bipartisan statement, Chris.
Let me ask